Assalamualaikum and good morning, madam and everyone. My name is Narfazrina binti Mali, and I will today me and my partner Charles Tija Anaraj will be presenting our article review entitled Predicting Language Choice in Digital Medium, a computational approach to analyzing WhatsApp code switching in Hong Kong. So before discussing the article, I would like to briefly introduce sociolinguistic, which is sociolinguistic is a branch of linguistics that studies the relationship between language and society. It examines how social factors influence the way people communicate in different situations, unlike general linguistics, which focuses on grammar and sentence structure. Sociolinguistics focus on how language is actually used in everyday life. Some important concept in sociolinguistics include language variation, language choice, code switching, bilingualism, and multilingualism. So this concept help us understand why people may use different language or language varieties depending on who they are speaking to, where they are, and the purpose of the conversation. So for this assignment, we were required to conduct a critical review of an academic journal article related to sociolinguistics. So the purpose of this assignment is not only to summarize the article, but also to critically evaluate its research objective, methodology, findings, and contribution to the field of sociolinguistics. So through this review, we are able to apply the sociolinguistic theory and theories that we learned in class to a real research study while improving our critical thinking and academic writing skill. So for our assignment, we selected the article titled Predicting Language Choice in a Digital Medium, a computational approach to analyzing WhatsApp code switching in Hong Kong. So we choose this article because it discusses language choice and code switching, which are the key concept of sociolinguistics, and it examines this concept in today's digital communication through WhatsApp. Now I will briefly introduce the article. The title of the article is Predicting Language Choice in a Digital Medium, a computational approach to analyzing WhatsApp code switching in Hong Kong. It was written by Wilkinson Daniel Wong Gonzalez, a researcher from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. The article was published in the International Journal of Bilingualism, a peer-reviewed journal published by Stage Publication. It was first published online in 2025 and later appeared in Volume 30, Issue 2 in 2026. The article focused on language choice, code switching, WhatsApp communication, and computational sociolinguistics. So next, I will explain the purpose of the study. The researcher found that although the code switching has been widely used, most previous studies focused mainly face-to-face communication. There is still limited research on language choice in digital communication, especially on messaging applications such as WhatsApp. Another issue is that many existing computational language models mainly analyze linguistic features while giving less attention to social factors that also influence bilingual communication. Therefore, this study aimed to develop computational model that can predict language choice in WhatsApp conversation. These objectives are to identify both linguistic and social factors that influence code switching, examine bilingual language choice in Hong Kong, and evaluate how accurately the model can predict language use in digital communication. The literature review discussed previous studies related to code switching, language choice, and digital communication. Previous research has shown that bilingual speakers often switch between language due to several factors, including language proficiency, communication style, social identity, educational background, and the communication context. The author also review studies that use WhatsApp as a platform for sociolinguistic research, showing that digital messaging has become an important area for studying bilingual language behavior. However, the researcher identified an important research gap. Most previous studies examined linguistic factors and social factors separately, making it difficult to understand how these factors work together in influencing language choice. To address this gap, the current study proposed an integrated computational model that combines language internal factors such as part of speech and matrix language with language external factor including language proficiency, communication style, attitudes, and social background. This provides a more comprehensive understanding of bilingual language choice in digital communication. That concludes for my part. Now I would like to invite my partner Charles Tija Anaraj to continue with the research methodology, findings, discussion, strength, weaknesses, and the conclusion. That's all from me. Thank you.
Greetings to Madam Shamli. My name is Charles Raj, and I will be taking over the presentation from this point onwards. So first of all, I will be talking about the methodology used within this research. So this study adopted a quantitative research design to examine the factors influencing Cantonese English code switching in WhatsApp conversations. These researchers aim to identify how both linguistic and social factors affect bilingual language choice. And now for the participants, they consisted of 24 undergraduate Hong Kong University students. Um, the sample was balanced in terms of gender, academic major, and educational background to ensure fair assessments and representation. Now for the data collection, um, the data consisted of 55,000 WhatsApp messages containing approximately 329,087 words. Now the participants had to answer a social linguistic questionnaire to provide information about their language background, proficiency, and attitudes towards code switching. Now, to analyze the data, several computational techniques were used by the researcher, which included sentiment analysis, art of speech tagging, and Bayesian mixed effects logistic regression. Finally, the dataset was divided into 80% training data and 20% testing data to evaluate the effectiveness of the accuracy of the predictive model. Now, let's move on to the findings. Now, the major findings that were found within this research is that the research found that language choice in WhatsApp conversations is influenced by both linguistic and social factors. Now, it was found that English was commonly used for proper nouns, determiners, and interjections, while Cantonese was commonly used for verbs, common nouns, and adverbs within conversations. Interestingly, English proficiency alone did not determine how much English participants used. This shows that the bilingual speakers make language choices based on social context rather than simply their language ability. Um, as for example, formal messages, English was used more within formal messages, while Cantonese was used more within informal messages. So overall, the computational model successfully predicted language choice, um, showing that the code switching follows systemic patterns instead of occurring randomly. Now let's move on to the discussion. So, the study supports sociolinguistic theories of language variation, which suggests that language use depends on social context, communication style, and linguistic structure. WhatsApp provides a very authentic bilingual communication medium and combines social ling- sorry. So WhatsApp provides an authentic bilingual communication. The study also shows how computational methods can be combined with sociolinguistic theories to better understand language behavior in today's digital world. Now we move on to the strengths. So some of the strengths within this study is that it is fairly recent. First of all, it is fairly recent. The study was published in 2005, making the findings highly relevant. Secondly, the researchers analyzed a very large data set consisting of, as I mentioned before, 55,000 messages and 320,087 words. Um, Moving on, another strength is that the data was authentic WhatsApp conversations rather than um, rather than focusing on experimental research. This allows the researchers to observe how bilingual speakers naturally communicate in everyday situations. Finally, the study combines social linguistic theory with advanced computational methods, making it both innovative and valuable for future research. Now, there are some weaknesses from the study. One of it being there are only 24 participants, and the participants were all university students focused only on Hong Kong. Therefore, the findings may not represent bilingual speakers from other age groups or cultural backgrounds. Secondly, the study focused only on WhatsApp. People may use language differently on other digital platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, making this a very noticeable weakness from this research. Lastly, the researchers relied on a single coder for identifying the matrix language in the messages. Now, although this was due to ethical restrictions that was mentioned within the research, involving multiple coders could have increased the reliability of the coding process. Now we move on to the critical evaluation. So, me and my partner Fazrina believe that this is a well and valuable study. One of the biggest strengths is the use of authentic bilingual conversations, which makes the findings more realistic and applicable to everyday communication. The integration of computational methods with social linguistic theory also demonstrates a innovative approach to studying language use. Now, however, the study does has its limitations. As I mentioned before, the small participant sample and focus on only one messaging platform limits how widely the findings can be applied. Future research should also include participants from different age groups, occupations, and multilingual communities. It would also be very beneficial to compare language use across different digital platforms such as IG, TikTok, and so on. Now, despite these limitations, we think that the strengths do outweigh the weaknesses. The study did successfully achieve its research objectives and provides important insights into communication in the digital environment. It also contributes to the growing field of computational social linguistics and offers useful directions for future research. Future studies should also include more diverse participants and platforms to further increase the reliability of the findings. Now, let's move on to the conclusion. Now, this research successfully investigated Cantonese English code switching on WhatsApp. The findings show that language choice is influenced by both linguistic and social factors, supporting the idea that code switching is systemic rather than random. In addition, the study demonstrates the importance of combining computational methods with social linguistic theories to better understand bilingual communication in the digital age. Personally, we found this article very informative because it shows how social linguistic concepts such as bilingualism, code switching, and language variation can be applied to real life digital communication. The main takeaway, of course, is language choice in digital communication is systemic and reflects both linguistic patterns and social influences. So, that is all from our presentation. Thank you very much, madam, for listening.